Gentlemen, welcome to Letters from Dad Leadership Training, Part 4, on the preparation for and the leading of the sessions, the four letter writing sessions of Letters from Dad. Here with me today is Monty Strother, National Director for Letters from Dad, and I'm Elton Rocker, Operations Manager. It's good to have you with us, and we are going to first talk about how to prepare for the Letters from Dad sessions, and it's really pretty easy. We've tried to make it as simple as we can to help you prepare yourself and your leaders for leading the Letters from Dad sessions. All right, the Letters from Dad timeline is on the page here before you, and you see there you've had your kickoff event. You have some time in between here, and we're hoping that it's going to be as close to 30 days as possible. Not always, but if you can give us 3 weeks or so, we'd be glad to have it. All right, and there is some time in between to get your facility set up where you're going to have the sessions, to get your leaders lined up and all that sort of thing. And these are the leaders, of course, that you got from your registration form, or those that had already signed up and come on board with it. Turn to page 32 in your training manual, if you would, if you have it there. All right, and there's that registration form right there. And right here is the spot where you had, once you got the guys to the kickoff and you're able to show the vision and show the value, that you had guys that step up and say, yeah, this is great, I want to help out. Okay, all right, so you've got that group of leaders. So what do you do with them? All right, what do you do with those guys, and who are they, and how many do I need, and what are their responsibilities, and all of that? And well, on page 32 we're going to show that to you. How many do you need is basically just simple math. Let's say you have about 60 guys that come to your kickoff event. Generally we see anywhere around 40 men that will sign up. All right, that's a good percentage. Sometimes we have up to 80 or 90% that sign up, but 60% or so, 65 is a normal number. So let's say you have 40 men sign up. We recommend about 8 men per group. Why? Well, because we don't want to get them too large. Because what happens when they get too large, Monty?
Oh yeah, you get a group too large and you miss out on that dynamic of the small group and the interaction that the guys are going to have.
Right, and sometimes guys can hide.
Oh yeah, they can hide in the group.
So if they get up to that 11, 12 size, somebody can hide and not really participate. And if it gets too small, it can get kind of cliquish and you don't have enough variety to get that synergy going. So we like the groups right around 8 or so. All right, so if you have 40 guys and you want about 8 guys in a group, well, that's simple math, and you divide that up and you have 5 groups. So you need at least 5 leaders, but we suggest you have 2 or 3 others that can kind of step in case somebody's out of town or they get sick or something like that. You'll want to have some guys to back them up. So we suggest at least 2 or 3 others that can kind of step up and fill in if needed, maybe even up to 5. All right, so that you can have 2 leaders per group, a main leader and then someone that can sub in if needed. What are their responsibilities? Well, it's basically being encouragement, isn't it, Monty?
That's right. It's just being a guy there to encourage the group. Of course, I jokingly say he can be an encourager and have a cattle prod handy to keep him going, but no, just to encourage one another and to be a part of keeping the group focused and on task, so that they don't start talking too much and get completely off course.
Right, and that this leader will be the first one to share. If there's a sharing part in the meeting, they'll be the first one to step up. And then also, Monty, we've put a tool in the Lost Art of Letter Writing to help the guys with doing a makeup class, because sometimes there'll be somebody that'll miss.
That's right.
And so it's up to the legacy group leader to help that guy catch up. Tell them what we've done with that.
Well, at the last session of the Lost Art of Letter Writing DVD, and every guy gets one of these, are the audio to each one of the 4 sessions, so that even if they miss, they've got an opportunity to do a little personal makeup. Now, one of the things that you guys may want to do is the leader may want to participate and go over to that person's house and walk him through that, so that he's got someone else as an accountability buddy
Right.
to walk through that.
Yeah, so all the season pass teachings are, the audio version is in the last session of their Lost Art of Letter Writing DVD, so their legacy leader can help them with that. So, but he's to contact them during the in between the sessions and encourage them and exhort them and help them to get their assignments completed. All right. And then how should you organize your groups? Now, we often get this question.
Yes.
Yeah, how do I divide up the groups? You know, and they say, you know, do I do it by age? Do I do it by, you know, community? Do I do it by socioeconomic status? You know, and get all complicated and things like that. No, really, we found in our many years of doing this that we encourage multi-generational mentoring.
That's right.
Now, what does that mean? That means mixing them up.
Getting
the guy in there that's 70 years old and has children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, get them in there with a 25-year-old that just had their first child, and you know, and those middle-aged guys that, you know, have teenagers and growing up, because they all bring a different perspective. Don't let the same old group of guys form a clique and get together and share the same old dry stories. Mix those groups up as much as is possible, all right, because that creates a richness in the groups.
Right.
and a nice synergy, so that you get the experience of the older, more mature guys and the enthusiasm and excitement of the younger guys, and you can really have a great group. Now that doesn't mean that if Bob brings his friend Bill, that you don't let them sit together.
Right.
Okay. All right. You know, there's a limit to that, but you know, try to mix them up as much as is possible.
And it will help the guys too to foster new relationships with other guys in the church.
Right.
So that's part of the dynamic of doing it this way, guys.
All right. Now, also halfway down there on page 33, it talks about some tools that we make available for you in your host account on lettersfromdad.com. Now, we receive hundreds of hits on that Letters from Dad site every week. So take advantage of that. You can post your events, you can post your class times and schedule, you can do all of that online. There's a Find a Church Near You section in there where people can go in, put in the zip code in the area, and it'll bring up all the Letters from Dad churches in there. We put your church website, your email address, your phone number in there so that they can contact you. Take advantage of the tools that are on your host account. You can also do spreadsheets, print out rosters, send out emails right from your Letters from Dad host account. Go in there, use it. If you have any questions on how to use it, call us. We'll be glad to help you through it. All right, how do I train my leaders? Well, it's pretty easy. You just ask them to come 30 minutes before each session. It's pretty simple, isn't it, Monty?
That's it. It's not complicated, guys.
You know, you just have them come, tell them what's going to be happening, make sure that they have all their handouts and their rosters and all that sort of thing. Walk them through the session, let them know where they're going to have to share or lead the discussion. All right, let them know what their responsibilities are to track the guys and follow up with them and encourage them and get their assignments completed, and then have them meet 30 minutes before the next meeting. It's pretty simple. Yeah, all right, you just need to get the guys on board and following your instructions.
Pretty straightforward, guys.
Yeah. All right, and then there's on page 35 is a tip sheet on how to be a good facilitator, how to be a good group leader. All right, we're not going to read them all for you. You can read those for yourself, but we did want to point out tip number 3. Be sensitive to marital situations and son and daughter relationships, because guys are going to be coming with all sorts of baggage, all sorts of things, and you as a group leader, you as a facilitator, need to be what we call, Monty, kind of shock-proof.
Yes.
All right. Because what are some of the things they might hear?
Oh gosh, you know, I've heard testimonies of broken relationships with fathers and their sons or daughters. I've had been told of relationships of men and their fathers, and the fathers are now passed away, and they are so bitter about it they don't want to even write that father letter. Right. So you need to be sensitive about that, or maybe some guy comes along and confesses that he and his wife are literally on the verge of a divorce.
Right.
So be sensitive to that, guys, and be an encourager through this entire process.
Right, because you're going to guys have men come in there that have son or daughter that's run away or in jail with drugs or whatever, or they've been, you know, the guy's on a third divorce, or you know, all sorts of things can come into these groups, and guys will open up. We have found that in Letters from Dad sessions, men open up like nothing else that they've been participating in before. So understand that, be prepared for that, be very non-judgmental and kind of shock-proof. So we just wanted to make you aware of that, okay? All right, session number 1. We're going to get right into the sessions right now and how they work and why they're so effective. Turn to page 45 in your training manual if you have it, and there's the couple of the handouts. Of course, the sign-up sheet, name, email address, couple of phone numbers. Okay, you're going to need that. That's just some basics. And then this strange rectangular diagram here with all the X's around it. And this is what we call, for lack of a better term, a cheat sheet. Okay, this is for your legacy leaders to kind of keep track and write down some information about each of the guys in their group. All right, and so let's say you're sitting here, you know, Bill, the legacy group leader, and you're going to start over here to your left, and you're going to be going around the circle and asking each one of the guys their name, you know, the name of their wife if they're married, and their children and that sort of thing. And then you're going to be asking a critical question: why you're there? Why are you here? What brings you here to Letters from Dad? All right, we'll be talking more about goals and that sort of thing in a little while. And while they're going around this circle, Monty, they're asking them, you know, and they're asking them those questions, and they're writing it down. Why is that important?
Well, what's nice about it, guys, we're all creatures of habit. When we come back into the group, we're typically going to sit in the same exact spot. As long as somebody hadn't come in and got our spot,
right,
we're going to sit in the same spot. By having this little cheat sheet, it allows you to remember who's in your group, what's going on, why they're there, and their kids, so that you can ask about them throughout this entire journey based on what they've been willing to share.
Right, and you can pray for them intelligently. You don't have to say, well, I'm praying for Jim's wife. I can't for the life of me remember her name, or his sick child, or, you know, but now you've got it there. You can pray intelligently. You can speak to them personally about things that are going on in their life. So that's a cheat sheet for our leaders, and that has been one of their most valuable tools.
Exactly.
We've heard from the guys that said, oh, thank you for that. That's been real helpful to me. All right. All right, here's the outline for session 1. The first part of it is pretty straightforward. These are some things you need to make sure you do. You know, test the equipment. Again, test the equipment and make sure everything works. Right. All right, get your leaders there 30 minutes before. Make sure you have their handouts ready. Let them know what their responsibilities are and all of that. They're going to be called on, especially in steps 9 and 11. So make them aware that they're going to be on the spot for those 2 particular steps. All right, and then of course step 1, welcome in prayer. You introduce yourself, have somebody pray, of course. Introduce your leaders. This is the first session after all, so, you know, introduce them, let them stand up, give them a round of applause, say thanks for them for stepping up into a leadership role. And another thing in Letters from Dad, Monty, that we haven't mentioned yet is the idea that Letters from Dad is very effective in raising up leadership within the church.
That's right.
Guys that have not been involved before in other things will step up with Letters from Dad because it touches, Letters from Dad touches men in areas that they just have not been moved before. All right, so you're going to get guys that are raising up in leadership. So that's another just a side benefit,
Yeah.
of Letters from Dad. All right, and of course you're going to cast the vision. You're going to tell them what's going to happen. All right, and that's kind of the mastery teaching method. You tell people what they're going to learn, and then you teach them that, and it's more effective in sticking with them. They're going to learn about the blessings of God. And they're going to learn about the mission and goals of Letters from Dad. They're going to talk about the biblical components of the blessing, and they're going to leave with the first letter to their wives. Monty, is that true that they're going to walk out with a letter to their wives in this very first meeting?
Absolutely. And guys, that's one of the important successes. We got to help the guys have victories right off the bat. And so we want to help every single guy leave this first night with this letter complete. At least have it finished where he can go home, he can polish it up a little bit.
Transfer it to his stationery, and he'll be ready to go.
Exactly. But have it done. That way every single guy leaves there with a victory in hand.
Okay, now step number 4 is share a story. Now you're going to have stories of your own later on, but for this first week we're giving you a story, and this is the Derek Redmond story. And I got a picture of Derek right there. There he is, handsome guy. And Monty, just run through quickly this story. Now, some of you may have seen this on the last Summer Olympics. They played it a lot. We've been using it for about 6 years, and but the Olympics picked it up, and you may have seen some video footage of this. But it has a great tie-in to Letters from Dad. Monty, tell them that story quickly.
Absolutely. And guys, it's written out for you, but here's how it goes. The 1992 Summer Olympic Games were destined to become one of the most touching and memorable in history. In Barcelona, Spain, site of the Games, emotion was high as much of the world had just come through the tension of the Gulf War conflict. The Olympics provided an opportunity to rebuild a sense of peace and goodwill among nations. No event from the 92 Games made a greater impact on the world in creating a lasting image of unity than the 400-meter semifinal race in track and field. Derek Redmond, British track star, was a favorite to be among those on the medal podium at the end of the competition. He had his heart set on receiving gold, but what happened to Redmond would not result in a gold medal, but rather a golden moment. In the middle of the race, Redmond seemed to be running smoothly and preparing to set up for a kick to the finish to place himself in a prime spot to win the final. But suddenly, Redmond pulled up, grabbed for the back of his leg, and fell to the track in a crumpled heap. The dream was over. Redmond's pursuit of the Olympic gold had come to a crushing halt. Still, Redmond was not to be defeated. With his face showing the excruciating pain caused from what would be later learned to be a torn hamstring, Redmond was determined to finish the race. He rose from the track, his competitors now 100 yards ahead, and he began to hobble toward the finish line. Each step was marked by agony. The crowd gasped collectively, as if they could feel the pain Redmond was experiencing. Yet Redmond was undaunted in his desire to cross that finish line. His will was strong, but his leg could not hold on. Like a wounded animal, he attempted to continue. All eyes were on the injured runner. Within moments, Redmond's father, Jim, jumped out of the stands and made his way toward the track. When security personnel attempted to stop him, Jim Redmond yelled, "That's my son!" He was allowed to pass and entered the track, where he came to to the aid of his son. When he reached Derek's side, Jim grabbed his son's arm and said, "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," Derek responded. "Then we will do it together," his dad replied. And of course, with that, Derek Redmond's father proceeded to help his son in agony cross that finish line. And that's what us fathers are called to do with our own sons, help us get across the finish line of life.
That's right, and that's a great illustration of Letters from Dad. You know, when we're going to have family members, wives, children, you know, they get wounded, they get knocked down, they get, you know, thrown to the cinders, you know, but it's our job as dads, as husbands, to come alongside and help them get along the finish line, get across that finish line of life. It's not the pastor's job. It's not the Sunday school teacher's job. You know, it's not the youth leader's job. It's our job. God's going to be calling upon us and asking us the question, were you there? Were you there for them? Did you help them? You know, and so that's a great story. You're going to have stories of your own, but use that one in your first week. Step 5 is your personal commitment. All right, you're going to take the guys to page 1 in the curriculum. Right there it is. And it says, I commit today by God's grace that I'll be diligent and conscientious toward my letters from Dad involvement. It is my prayer that God will honor my effort to leave a legacy of faith, hope, and love to my family for generations to come. And you'll see guys grabbing their pen, they want to sign that and date. You say, whoa, wait a minute. We've got one thing to do before we commit to this. We need to turn to the next page and write down our goals. Because again, Monty, just as you've said many times before, they have to have a target to shoot at, all right, or it's not, it doesn't count for anything.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to ask these guys to write some goals. What are some things that they could that you think guys might be shooting for?
Well, they may want to specifically set a goal to make sure that a specific letter gets written a certain way to maybe a child that they've been estranged to, or maybe they've not. Well, let's be honest, maybe they're in the doghouse with their wife.
That's right.
And maybe they need to point out in the letter, how he, hopes for forgiveness in this event. Yeah. Maybe he just wants to help a friend of his get through this journey, to make sure that because of what's going on in that man's life, he is his accountability buddy. Whatever it is, but you've got to set goals, guys. It's like the targets that I talked about earlier. If you don't have targets to aim at, you're going to hit them every time.
That's right. So have them set some goals so they know, why you're here, what are you going to do, what do you want to accomplish, all right? And then you can take them back to the personal commitment, let them sign that and date it. And they're committing to do their best to get it done and complete their assignments. All right? Okay, so you've set their goals, get them to commit to it, and then you're going to sign them up with an accountability buddy. Now, what we're doing in this, guys, we're finishing this, what I call an accountability tree. You have your facilitator, a guy kind of running it. Then you have your legacy group leaders, which report to him, and they're also accountable to their guys underneath there, and the guys are accountable to them. And now we're doing a one-on-one accountability. All right, we're making the guys accountable to each other so that no man gets left behind. And we're setting it up here with kind of a cute scenario, military sort of fashion. It says, men, I want you to look to that ugly guy seated to your right. You're his drill sergeant, and you're responsible for getting him through letters from Dad successfully. You will see that he gets his letters written and delivered. Pass him your binder, write it, have him write down his name and a couple of phone numbers and an email address so you can get a hold of him. And of course, you have the guy do that, and then there's someone looking in the back of your head, so you do the same thing for the guy next to you. And that helps complete that tree, all right? That you're making all these guys get through this journey together, and that is crucially important, that you build that camaraderie, and you build this structure so that these guys all finish together. All right, step number 7, they're going to watch the introduction to the Season Pass DVD. That's where Greg explains the curriculum and what they have in all their materials. Then you're going to have them watch session 1 of the Season Pass DVD, where Greg will speak about the biblical perspective on the blessing. All right. Now, we want you to know that that Greg's teaching is not always going to be just specifically about the particular letter that you're writing that week, because he's going to cover the general principles of the biblical blessing, and we're going to leaving it up to you as the facilitator and the group leaders to bring that down and to hone it in on that particular letter that you're writing that week. All right. So, and you have a fill in the blank, of course, that goes along with that teaching. There it is right there on the screen on page 65 in the curriculum. All right. And then after you've shown that, all right, whoops, I better back up here one page here, Monty. There you go. And this in step 9 is a critical part, because all right, you've watched the Season Pass teaching. And now you're getting into these crucial areas where you're asking those first questions. You're giving them the name, wife's name if you've been married and how long, names and ages of your children if you have any, and most importantly, why are you here? All right, now, Monty, this might be a good place to say, well, hey, what about our divorced guys? Or what about our single guys? Or what about our guys that don't have any kids yet? Is there a spot for them in Letters from Dad? What's your answer for that, Monty?
Yeah, and guys, absolutely, because we're going to be focusing in on teaching guys, sure, specific letters to individuals in the family, but the principles of the blessing transcend in all of these areas. You know, if he's single, he could be writing a future wife. Or how about a sibling? If they've got no kids, it could be a future child that God's going to bless the family with, or it could be a niece or a nephew.
Exactly.
If they're older and maybe the spouse has been passed on a while, they could still write that blessing letter to that spouse.
As a tribute.
As a tribute letter. And I tell you what, guys, I recall one from a few years ago, and it was probably one of the sweetest letters I've ever seen that a guy wrote to his wife that had been deceased for 18 months.
So there's a place in Letters from Dad for every guy.
For every guy.
Right? There's someone in your life that needs to have a word of blessing from you.
That's right.
All right, no matter where you are. Okay, and then step number 10, you're going to move right in to the I am blessed because letter. Very simple, straightforward type of letter. And we have a sample of it right there on the page before you. That's kind of a fancy font. It's amazing what word processors can do. All right, you also have a fill in the blank. There it is right there. And basically you're going to give the guys some time to fill in the blank. I am blessed because, I am blessed because, I am blessed because. And you give them about 15 minutes or so to fill in those blanks and just write down those thoughts that come to them of why they're blessed to have their wife as their wife. All right, so you have them fill in those blanks right there. And then in step number 11, you give them the opportunity to share what they wrote. Now, we do this for a couple of reasons. One, to help the guys verbalize what they've written down, and second, to give them the opportunity to steal from the other guys.
That's right. That's where plagiarism comes in.
That's right. So as the other guys are sharing and what they've written down, they're going, oh, that's a good one. I want to put that down for mine too. You know, and so you give the guys, and that really helps them build synergy. It builds richness in the group. It really helps these guys have that camaraderie that they need and that sort of thing. So
it's great give them
time. Give them an opportunity to do that and let them fill in those blanks. And then all they have to do is take that letter home, transfer it onto their stationery, and that thing is ready to deliver. Step number 12, you review your assignments. And of course, the most important one is right there at the bottom of there on page 50 is where get that letter delivered.
Yes.
Okay. Read the book. It doesn't take long. We've already talked about that. Write and deliver that letter. Don't let them procrastinate. All right. Watch the Lost Art of Letter Writing DVD and read the devotions 1 through 4. It's just one a week, not one every day, just one a week. And each one is a springboard to another type of letter. Then also built into each one of the sessions is another type of letter that you can write to that individual. Right? There's the devotions that are a springboard to another to a letter that you can write. But then also, there's a sample letter too, Monty, that goes along with that.
Right. That's right. The sample letter that we've written for each devotion.
But then also on page 12 in your curriculum, you can see another type of letter that you can write to your wife. You just go and answer these questions here. It's kind of an outline that you can use. So we've built into Letters from Dad enough material so that you can go through the whole class again and not do the same thing twice. Why? Because as you're going through Letters from Dad, you're going to find that there are others that you know that the Lord brings to your mind that say, hey, this is pretty good. I know my brother Bill would really like to do this, or my cousin Jimmy would really like to do this, or my neighbor, Pat, he would really enjoy going through this. So you can go through Letters from Dad again, not write the same letter twice. So we've built that right in to the Letters from Dad curriculum. All right, so you have them finish those assignments. Make sure you encourage your group leaders to contact them during those weeks in between and get them to get those letters finished and delivered, read the book, and watch the Lost Art of Letter Writing DVD. Now we're going to point out some things in session 2 and session 4 that are a little bit different. All of them have the same basic format, but there's some unique things in session 2 and 4 that we did want to point out to you. Turn to page 66 in your training manual if you have it there. All right, and there's the outline, of course, for session 2, and it's basically all the same, welcome and prayer, and, you know, make sure you hand out all of the things that your legacy group leaders need and let them know what responsibilities they have and all of that sort of thing. And then step 2, share a story. All right, now you should have stories of your own by now. But I did want to point out here, the sign-up sheet's a little different for session 2 because you don't have to have all their information again because you already have it there, but you did need to know that they attended. You put their name in there. Did they deliver the letter to their wife? And if they haven't, when did they plan to deliver it? Don't let your men cop out and procrastinate. Now, I'm going to give it to my wife on her birthday. Well, when's that? Well, that's 6 months from now. Well, that ain't going to work. Nope. All right, have them deliver that letter now, and they can write another sort of letter for her birthday 6 months from now. Because the longer these guys wait, the more the less motivated they will be.
They'll just procrastinate.
Men need immediate, tangible feedback to keep them motivated and keep them going. So they need to deliver these letters right away. Now, if their anniversary is, you know, in the next 3 weeks, or a birthday, or Christmas is coming up and they're going to deliver that, that's fine. But don't let them put it off any more than about a month or so. All right, because it's important that they get it delivered as soon as possible. All right, and then of course, and once you've got somebody that has a story, and step number 3, share the story with the big group. All right, because hopefully you're going to have stories of your own, because some of these guys have already delivered that letter. They've got stories of their own. And in step 4, we're going to watch session 2 of the Season Pass DVD, where Greg will be talking to the guys about the Blessing Quotient Quiz. And we wanted to bring this particular part of session 2 and bring it before you because there's something a little unique that happens. And in this quiz, well, Greg's going to cover the 4-part blessing. And he'll touch on all 4 parts of it: the meaningful touch, spoken words of high value, picturing a special future, and active commitment. And he's going to take the guys through this exercise to maybe point out some things where they may be having difficulty speaking and writing words of blessing, and this may help them pinpoint on where they're having problems. Monty, let's walk through it the way Greg is going to take the guys through it when he goes through the teaching with them.
Absolutely.
All right. Now you can see the different columns here. We have the 4 parts of the biblical blessing. They're all listed here, 1 through 4. And then we have 2 columns, one for your mom and one for your dad. All right, so I'm going to walk through there and ask you these questions as Greg does during the teaching, Monty.
Sure.
And I'm going to change my little text here so I can mark in those boxes for you. All right, meaningful touch, is that something you felt like you received from your mom?
Yes, most assuredly.
Okay, so we'll put an X in that box. How about your dad?
No, can't say that it did.
Okay. All right, spoken words of high value. You know, hey, you're a great kid. I know that you're gonna succeed, and all those sort of things. Did you hear that from your mom?
Definitely did. Did hear that from Mom.
Okay. How about Dad?
If it was in an unusual way. So I'm going to have to say no.
Okay. Picturing a special future. Saying, you're going to be able to do this, you're going to be able to do that, and encouraging you in what your aspirations might be. Did you receive that sort of thing from your mom?
Absolutely. Mother was always encouraging about that.
Okay. How about your dad?
No, I can't say that I did.
Okay. And then actively committed. They were not only saying these things, but actually doing things to help you reach that point in your life. Did you receive that sort of active commitment from your mom?
Absolutely, from Mom for sure.
Okay, and how about Dad?
Dad, in a way. So let's go ahead and give it an X.
All right. So you see that Monty has 4 X's in the mom column, and then 1 in the dad. All right, and for a grand total of 5. All right. So Monty, out of the possible 8, you scored a 5.
Right.
And why we wanted to go through this exercise with you so that during the training, so that you guys know what's going to happen. You're going to have some men that are going to have 1s, 2s, some even 0s. And this may be for the first time in their lives where they actually see why they are struggling so much speaking in writing words of love and encouragement and blessing to their families, and why it's been so difficult for them to be a real encourager and a blesser of those that they care about for their whole lives. And it may be a very difficult time for them.
That's right.
All right. There may be even groups that break out in prayer during this time. But we wanted to point this out to you. There may be a few guys in there that are going to have 7s and 8s, and they can be praising God for the blessings that they had.
Amen.
All right. But there are going to be a good share of those that are going to have your 0s and 1s and 2s. So we wanted you to be prepared for that, so that you can help these guys walk through this what can be a real stumbling block in why they have found that this has been such a difficult thing for them to do, because they never had it. They never had that example set before them.
And you know, Alton, we found as Greg and I have traveled, when this has been done, we've noticed that over 55% of the men score a 4 or less on the blessing question quiz. So it's a very staggering statistic, but a very eye-opener, I think, for each and every one of us as leadership.
That's right. And so we wanted to point this out as something unique that doesn't happen in any of the other sessions, and it is a very powerful section. So we wanted to make sure you knew about it before you got into the actual session itself. All right. Also in session number 2, all right, you're going to be going into the second letter that you'll be writing, and that letter is, of course, to your children, and it's the basic I remember when letter, and that letter can be a lot of fun. There's a sample of it right there on page 14, the I remember when letter. Yeah. All right, and you'll be writing this to your children, of course. Now, if you have more than one, or in Greg's case, he had 7. We're not asking them to write all 7 all at one time. Just pick one child and start there, and then when birthdays or special events or graduations or Christmas or other holidays come up, then you can write the other children as they go along. But pick one, start there, and the I remember when letter is basically you looking back in different events in your child's life and bringing those memories out and putting them onto paper. All right, and there's the fill in the blank that goes along with that. Now, we're not letting you out there and just letting you flop around and try to come up with all these things, these events in your children's life. We're going to give you some ideas. And right there on page 16, we've listed 26 of them out there of different events in your child's life to help you kind of bring those memories back, all right? Like their first day of school, or the day that their dog died, you know, or the day that they trusted Christ as their Savior, or started high school, or when they learned how to drive. There's a scary moment, Monty. I know you've been through that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Or the day that they walked down the aisle.
Yeah.
Another special day. So we give you some ideas to help get the juices flowing and going, and then you just fill in the blanks in the I remember when letter. And one of the things that I've heard that men often give back to us, you know, they tell us that, wow, my children told me that, hey, Dad, I didn't even know you knew about that, or that you remembered that sort of thing, and so it's very special to them.
That's right.
So it's a great letter, a very simple, very easy letter, and it'll mean a lot to your kids because it tells them that you've been interested in their life and in their lives, and you're involved in it, and you remember those special events in their life. So,
and boy, from a standpoint of the first 2 letters, helping these guys be successful right out of the gate is so critically important to keep them moving forward.
Right. And so if you have time, of course, you'll go and you'll share around the circle. The guys can share the stories about their kids, about their I remember when, and they can plagiarize each other as often happens in that. And, oh yeah, I remember when my kid did that. That was a great thing, you know. And so if you have time, that's a great opportunity to do that and let the guys share with each other those events in their children's lives. All right. And then, of course, the next step is once they're through, they'll have that letter 95% completed. All right, and then step number 8, of course, you'll review their assignments, and you'll tell them, hey, if you haven't finished the Letters from Dad book, go ahead and do that. Also finish watching the Lost Art of Letter Writing DVD, those 5 segments on how to be a better communicator. If they haven't already finished those, encourage them to get them done. And then, of course, the 4 devotions for those weeks in between from Grace for the Moment. And again, all those devotions are a springboard to another type of letter that you can write. And then also built into session 2 is on page 17 in their curriculum is another type of letter that they can write to their children so that they can go through Letters from Dad again, take a buddy, take a brother, take a cousin or somebody through it again. They don't have to write that same letter twice. On page 17 is another entirely different type of letter that they can write to one of their children.
Well, and that is helpful for these guys to tee them up.
That's right. Okay, that wraps up session 2. All right, basic format is the same. The blessing quotient quiz is a little bit different. We wanted to point that out to you. Then go into that I remember when letter. That's a fun letter. You're going to have a great time writing that sort of letter to your children. And then we also wanted to point out session number 4. It's a little different because this is the tough letter, that final letter of your life. And so we wanted to walk you through that because we have an exercise that really helps put men in the proper frame of mind to be able to write this type of letter. And so we discuss an event and bring an event back to their memory that we hope will encourage them to put down those final thoughts that they'll want their family to have and to know when they've gone on to be with the Lord. All right, the first part, of course, is all the same. You prepare the guys and make sure they have all of their handouts and all that sort of thing and test their AV equipment. And you have the welcome and prayer. You'll be able to share a story, and by now you should have a whole bunch of stories. All right, and then you'll watch session 4 of the Season Pass DVD. And so the lights will be off and Greg will be teaching. And then at the end of that, while the lights are still off, you'll be coming into step number 5. And you see the required materials down there, a flashlight, or if you have a miner's helmet with a little lamp on top, that sort of thing, that might even be better. And then you will have someone read this story, the facilitator or someone that the facilitator assigns to do it. And Monty, I'd like you to read that story for the men because this story, this event really sets the men up and puts them in the right frame of mind to be able to write this final letter. Monty, tell the guys about this.
Absolutely. Guys, I'm just going to read it the way you ought to. Most of you probably remember the events of January 2nd, 2006. That Monday morning, about 6:30 a.m., disaster struck the tiny mining town of Sago, West Virginia. An explosion at the Sago coal mine trapped 13 miners for nearly 2 days. There was only one survivor. In a letter to the victim's family, Randall McCloy Jr., the sole survivor, wrote these words recounting their last moments. "We were worried and afraid, but we began to accept our fate. Junior Toller led us in the sinner's prayer. We prayed a little longer, and then someone suggested that we each write letters to our loved ones. I wrote a letter to Anna and my children. When I finished writing, I put the letter in Jackie Weaver's lunchbox, where I hoped it would be found. As time went on, I became very dizzy and lightheaded. Some drifted off into what appeared to be a deep sleep, and one person sitting near to me collapsed and fell off his bucket, not moving. It was clear that there was nothing I could do to help him. The last person I remember speaking to was Jackie Weaver, who reassured me that if this was our time to go, then God's will would be fulfilled. As my trapped co-workers lost consciousness one by one, the room grew still, and I continued to sit and wait, unable to do much else. I have no idea how much time went by before I also passed out from the gas and smoke, awaiting rescue. You may have heard Greg say something in the last clip that might have caught your attention. Greg's words were, if I said to you guys, you've got 12 minutes to pen a letter and you're going to go be with Jesus, there'd be some pretty fast writing. You wouldn't have to wonder, is this what I want to say? You'd be getting to the bottom line pretty quick. Okay, gentlemen, we are now in the mine. The oxygen is running out. You have 12 minutes. Get writing.
Wow, and then you turn the lights on and tell the men that use their note paper or their stationery if they have it there, or a notebook if they brought it, and start writing. And Monty, now you've been in several meetings where this has happened, and what do you usually see happens after this reading is done and the lights come on?
Well, I tell you what, it is a really poignant moment because absolute silence is in that room. I joke that you could hear a church mouse walk across the floor. About the only thing you hear is the pencils or the pens going across the paper, because
Right.
these guys are feverishly wanting to pen what they might say. And what is so unique is this is the opportunity for these guys to really leave some very precious words to their families.
That's right. And their core values, the faith that they want to pass
That's
on,
right.
those final words and that sort of thing. It's something that they may edit and revise later on if the Lord gives them more days, but we don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know
That's right.
when the Lord might take us. So it's very important. It's vital that they put down, a couple of paragraphs of what they'd want to say to their family after they're gone. And Monty, you've seen the letters come in from wives, from children. We've been ministering with the Lord through letters from Dad for 6 years now. Many men have gone on to be with the Lord who have been involved with letters from Dad. And the letters from the wives and the children have been just amazing. And so thankful that the Lord brought these guys to letters from Dad, and now these family members have these treasures,
Absolute
that
treasures.
they're going to have for the rest of their lives.
Amen.
So it's tough. It's a tough letter, but this exercise helps put the guys in the right frame of mind. Give them the time they need to do it. We put down here 12 to 15 minutes. Well, if it takes 20 or 25 and the guys are still writing, give them that time to do it. And if you have time, let them share. You can take a few minutes if you want to. Let them share around the group. They may be able to help and encourage one another or put something in a little different way if they need to. And then step 7, review your assignments. By then they will certainly have finished the book, finished watching the Lost Art of Letter Writing DVD. Encourage them to get, finish up the rest of the devotions that they have, and then wrap it up. You've reached the end. Tell them to take this letter, put it in a safe place, all right, in the back of their binder so their family knows where to find it. And later on, if the Lord gives them more years, as we mentioned, they may want to go in, revise it, edit, add to it, and that sort of thing. Then step 8, pray and dismiss. And you're done, and you make your plans for your next Letters from Dad session, where the guys that have been through this have seen how rewarding it is, how meaningful it's been to them, and they can they'll have in their mind guys that they know would really be a benefit from going through Letters from Dad, and you can plan another event. You can have a Letters from Dad reunion with the guys, bring the guys together that have been through it, and then have them invite their friends.
That's right.
And have a good time where these guys can share their testimonies, and then you can be able to take the opportunity, of course, and offer the sessions again for the new guys to go through.
And what's also exciting, Alton, is now these guys that have already gone through it once, now they get to be a coach for
That's
a
right.
friend or a family member that wants to go through it. And
That's
I
right.
don't know about you, but most of the guys I ever ran around with, they always loved being a coach.
Oh yeah. So now we've been talking about mainly the standard format of Letters from Dad, which is 1 letter a month for 4 months. You write the 4 letters. You have a few weeks in between to get those letters done and delivered, and all that sort of thing. But another format that many churches are using, Monty, and you speak to many of them, is a retreat format.
That's right.
It's like a Friday night, Saturday morning, or an all-day Saturday sort of thing. And that has been very successful and is very powerful. It's an in-house type of retreat. You don't have to go to some facility somewhere else and sleep on cots with a bunch of other guys and things like that. It's something where you go there Friday, you go to the church Friday night, probably have a dinner, go through 1 or 2 of the sessions, come back on Saturday morning and have a breakfast, and then finish the other 2 sessions during Saturday. And we have on pages 37 through 41 a very detailed step-by-step format outline to use Letters from Dad as a very powerful retreat. All right, and you can see there it's all broken out for you step by step. Monty, you put most of this together yourself and have walked quite a few churches through it. So it's a powerful way to run Letters from Dad. If you want something a little different, if you're looking for a retreat that's unique, and will really get your guys involved. And what's great is they will be delivering those letters immediately. It's not a week away. It's not 2 weeks away. They're going to leave this class and they're going to have those letters about ready, and they'll bring them home and they'll have stories the very next morning.
That's right.
All right. So it can be very effective. It's on pages 37 through 41 in your manual. If you're considering a retreat, look that over and see if that will work for you. All right, now guys, we're wrapping up here this final teaching segment of the Letters from Dad training, and you can see the little girl up there in the corner reading that letter, and she got a little orange crush there beside her, you know, and that big smile on her face. Man, we wanted to wrap up with this to tell you that once you start delivering these letters of love and affirmation and blessing to those that you care about, they're going to be expecting more.
That's right.
All right. And Letters from Dad is much more than just those 4 letters, those 4 basic letters that the guys are going to learn how to write during those 4 sessions. It's learning how to live a lifestyle of blessing in not only the written word, but the spoken word and everything that you do.
Amen.
Because your family needs